Hey, what's up? John Sonmez here from SimpleProgrammer.com. So I got a kind of a fun question here, which is, should I still inform a potential employer of my vacation plans, even if I know they will negatively impact my ability to get the position? I've actually been in this position before, so I could give some direct advice. So this is from Sean, and he says, I've been in negotiations with a potential employer for a full-time senior role at an office location. I feel I would be a great fit for the position, but without knowing of the opportunity prior, I booked 2 trips for the second month of the role. I feel quite certain that the employer would dismiss my application if he knew of my prior travel arrangements, but I think the employer would allow remote work if I'm a good fit. When, if at all, should I tell the employer about my travel plans? So, and I'll read the additional info he has here. He says, I've been working in the field for 8 years, but recently got back from traveling over 15 countries, so I haven't actually worked since last year and feeling quite rusty. I love traveling, perhaps more than coding, and I'm carefully considering abandoning coding for blogging and writing instead. So the reason why I read that additional info is because I think it's relevant in this case. The fact that he loves travel so much sort of tells him where he should put his risk and what he should do in this situation. So I'll give you my story. So back when I first got married, was getting married, I had lost my job. This was like September 11th, like the 9/11 stuff. And I was looking for a new job, and I really needed a new job. And I interviewed for this contract position, and my wedding was scheduled, right? And so it was scheduled for like a week after I started this new job, that I would get this new job, but I needed to get the job. So what I did was I did not tell the employer when I was interviewing that I had a wedding in a week, my wedding, that I would need to take off for a week essentially to get married. And so I got the job and I did a really good job the first 5 days of Monday through Friday. And then Friday afternoon, I knocked on the boss's office and I was like, hey, I made sure that he was super impressed with the work I was doing. I was working late hours, I was doing a real good job. And I said, hey, could I take off? I know I just started here, but could I just take off for like a week, next week? It's kind of important. And he was like, that's kind of odd. I mean, you just started the job. Like, what do you need to take off for? What could you possibly need to take off for? And I was like, well, to get married. And he was like, are you serious? And we had a good old time. He laughed about it. He said, yeah, of course you can take out. Like, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal, right? It could have gone sour. It could have gone really bad, but it went well. And I think in most cases, I debated long time ago, and we actually had this discussion. He said, well, why didn't you tell me that you had this wedding plan, that you're getting married? And I told him, I said, well, I was afraid that I wouldn't get the job if you knew I was gonna have to go and leave in a week. And he said, oh, well, that makes sense, right? And we laughed about it, but I still got the feeling that I was probably right in what I did, in the fact that had I told him, I probably wouldn't have gotten the job. Now, you could say, is that the right thing to do or not? I don't know. I mean, it worked out fine. I knew I was a good fit for the job. What does 1 week matter, right? It wasn't like they had some kind of crunch. Like, did it really matter if I took the week, 3 months down the road or after the first week that I started the job? It's just kind of a weird thing to take a week after you start the job. So that's my story. Now, in your case, what would I do? I would probably do a very similar thing. There's no need to reveal that information up front, I don't think. Now, if you know that they're working on a specific project that you're being hired for that has a deadline that they're bringing you on specifically to do, that's totally different. I'm not telling you to lie and to be deceitful in any way, but you don't need to volunteer information that could only hurt you and not help you, right? There's no need to say that, right? When you get to the negotiation process, when they're ready to sign the paperwork, then you could say, hey, one thing I just want to make sure that you're aware of, I just want to make sure that you know up front that I've got some vacation planned, and you could get that cleared. Or you could be willing to, the other thing that I could say that you kind of got to be willing to do if you're going to do this is that when it comes time and you do have to ask your boss for that time off, you have to be willing to possibly cancel your trip or to quit the job. If you're willing to do that, then not volunteering the information up front, I think is perfectly valid, but you got to be willing to do that. So if your boss says, no, you can't do that, you can't take this time off, then you've got to be willing to, make that choice. But I would say that in most cases, it's not going to be a problem. Like I said, I think, from my own experience, it wasn't a big deal. It was still something I wouldn't have volunteered up front, right? Just because why do that? Why hurt yourself, right? At the very least, like, get the job, get everything decided. Don't let that be an influencing factor in you getting this job. That doesn't make sense to me. Shake the hands, get the contract in place, and then if you want to, right before you sign the final thing, like I said, say, oh, by the way, I'm sure this won't be a problem, but I just wanted to let you know, is that okay? Or if you want to bring that up into the negotiations at the negotiation phase, that's totally cool. Just don't do it at the interview. That's stupid. That doesn't make any sense. Why volunteer the information there at the interview? That's not going to help you. So anyway, that's my advice on it. If you've got some other advice or you've been in a similar situation, leave a comment below. I'm curious to hear how many of you have done this. It was kind of fun. It was kind of interesting that when I did it, and it worked out for me. But maybe you've got a bad story where it didn't work out for you. Let me know. I'm curious to hear. And if you like this video, go ahead and click that subscribe button below, and I will talk to you next time. Take care.